Yeah, I think we'll have to leave ourselves a little extra time for the next topic because
Because you
I
think
think
it's
it's
gonna go
going to be big.
longer?
Well, I think it's going to be a lot of submissions.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. I think so too. This one was pretty good too, though. We got a good number. Although most of you folks out there, or a lot of you submitted, was like half of you submitted, sometime between last night and now. These submissions came in, so last minute, but better late than never. Trey, did you see any good ones in there that you liked?
Sorry, I was pausing the YouTube
Oh, you're
playback.
streaming it. You're streaming and watching. Yeah, yeah. I can't do
Well,
that.
I had to get the chat window open, but yes,
Oh,
we had a lot of really, really good images. The thing is after we announced it last week, I thought, I've got to have something that I want to throw in there, and I really struggled to find something, and then of course I never did, so I feel terrible. So
why did you? Well,
I just
yeah,
forgot.
there wasn't nothing fire related. I could fire and path not taken work together. Yeah, or you just forgot. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, yeah. I did. I just forgot. So that was my bad. That was my laziness.
It's all good. It's all good. Well, you're here now. This is your contribution to the critique. Your brain. So good. Your brain is the path not taken today. Welcome everybody. Welcome everyone into the chat. I think we got a couple people. Well, James Glennie's in there right now. Hey, welcome James. And yeah, we're gonna dive into this right now. Next week's is gonna be interesting. We were talking about that when we started this. It's the need for speed will be critique number 187. The need for speed. So yeah, I have a feeling we're gonna get a lot of submissions. I know some of the usual suspects because we have some people with motorsports backgrounds in their portfolio. So you got those superpowers in there competing against folks that don't have that. So this should be really interesting.
Yeah, it'll be good. Yeah, it'll be really good.
Yep. Cool. All right, let's dive in. I think we should just dive right in. I'm
Yeah, let's do
excited
it.
to. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share this here TWIP community. And folks, remember, if you're watching this after the fact, or live, and you want to be in the mix of submitting images to our photo critiques, just head over to join.thisweekinphoto.com, become a part of the TWIP community, and you too can participate. If you're not part of the community, you can always watch these because they're on YouTube, and I share the events publicly as we do them. But if you want your images to show up on screen and you want us to yak about them, that's for members only. So, all right. So moving right in. So critique number 186, the path not taken. Let's dive into this.
Drum roll.
Drum roll, please. Do you really want a drum roll? Do you really want one?
No, no.
I don't have a drum roll yet. All right.
You and sound effects are like me and Chuck Norris jokes.
Oh god. Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
hard to resist.
It's hard. It's hard to. All right, first up is Mr. Peter Levshin. Peter said he calls this one entitlement. Let's take a look. All right. I love seeing Peter shots because he travels the world, right?
Yeah.
Or he used to before all the Armageddon set in. But yeah, traveling the world, getting great shots. That's the life of a photographer. Like that's the life that a lot of people dream of, sitting in their cubicles. Like one day, I'm just gonna be able to buy a plane ticket to Machu Picchu and take photos and eat great food and then come home and edit them and post them and share them. That's Peter. That's what Peter does in his spare time.
Yeah. Yeah. He is an avid addict of, chasing images. So
Yep. So what do you think of this one?
This is a really interesting take on the topic. I mean, I think that, a lot of people could look at this as sort of like a religious path, or a path to sort of self-enlightenment, a path to all kinds of things, right? Like, so this is really interesting. And that's kind of where I struggled to think of a topic for this, to think of an image to put into this topic was, how deep do I go, with my thoughts on this? So I really enjoy this image, and I think that one of the things I like about it is that it's very simple. It's easy to digest. It's easy to just sort of see what it is that Peter is sharing. I do wish there was slightly more detail in the harsh shadows, but that could be, because we're looking at it over the web, that's very possible. I really like to have a little bit more rich tonal range, but I appreciate the fact that we got this stark outline. We've got clouds in the background. We've got some detail there. So very, very simple foreground, background. I mean, it's got all the things. It's black and white. It's got all the things we love.
Black and white, the
A
border.
border?
What is this we you speak of?
Oh man.
But it does have
Yeah.
that border, and he put a chin on it too. So
Yeah.
that's interesting, which I've learned through speaking to you that is that is kind of a staple in the professional image photo competition world, right?
Some of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it too. I agree with your saying. Yeah, the shadows. When I first look at it, I'm thinking, okay, from a photographer standpoint, you're like, oh, the shadows are crushed. Where's the detail in there? But then I look at it and I'm thinking that's artistic, interpretation. He intended to do that. He wanted to show the contrast of these figures against that bright sky. I was curious what you were going to say about the truncation of the bodies on the bottom, because I know you have a problem with amputations and that sort of thing. So these
I like how you phrase that. I have a problem with no. I think that it's appropriate where it's at, because the hand of the statue, the left hand of the main statue, is still in frame. I think if you were to, crop right through the center of the hand, or, right through the elbow or something like that, then it becomes a little bit more uncomfortable. I like the fact that, where it's cropped is just about as tight as I would go. So I don't have an issue with that. No, I think it's fine.
Yeah, it's a fun shot.
Yeah, it
Like
tells a good story.
The animated sort of, I like animated photos, and I put one in here to illustrate that. But the animated part of me wants to see those clouds just gently moving across the background back there, just gently moving. Maybe some crickets or something. Yeah, I like it. This is really cool. Do you? Where was he when he shot this? Do you know?
Oh, I have no idea.
No.
He doesn't always tell me.
Yeah.
So
How rude.
yeah, this could be like in Burma. I don't know. He's been everywhere. So
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
have to ask him in the chat.
Thank you, Peter. Peter, let us know in the community where this was. I'm guessing not Texas. So
You never know.
maybe. You never know, right? You never know. All right. Next up is me. And this is going to be hard to show because for some reason, Circle doesn't scale the images. This is actually the height and width of this image. So good and bad, it puts in the actual height and width of videos when you put them in there, and non-standard aspect ratios with this one. So this one's, I believe this is 9:16, so it's vertical. But I wonder if I can zoom out this way so we can see it. Yes, how about that? There you go.
Yeah.
We got the whole thing. So this is a composite shot, obviously, with some animation added in an app that lets you do this sort of thing, and it's fun. It's you see it only goes for 6 seconds total, but this is a seamlessly looping 6 seconds. So if you play this on a loop, which I can't do on this screen, this would just loop forever seamlessly and just look like it's going on. This is my illustration, or an illustration of path not taken, from the standpoint of this guy down here at the bottom is probably like, you know what, I wish I had been on this train or stayed home. Right? So, and this kind of thing is fun. I talk about this a lot in some of the talks that I do about, just sort of the idea of we have a lot of power at our beck and call these days when it comes to images and image creation, and they don't all need to be static, right? Because most of our images are being viewed on computers, which are highly capable of showing more than just a static image. Nothing, obviously, I'm a still photographer, so nothing wrong with still photographs. But if motion serves the story more, just like a compositional element, just like a border or a vignette or something like that, if motion tells the story that you're trying to tell a little bit better, and you have the skill set to do it, why not use it? Because most of the platforms, if not all of the platforms that you'd be sharing on, support motion these days. So why not? Why not use motion? So
Right. The only challenge with motion is my clients' walls don't support motion.
That's
So
true.
it
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's the barrier. That's the barrier. So I love the experimentation. It's just that transition into a client uh, item is
Yeah,
tough.
right. And that goes to what are you shooting for, right? That's part of the decision process. So if you're a Troy Miller and you're shooting for a client, or this is for a wedding, or even for yourself, and it's ultimately going to hang on the wall above your couch or something, then of course you're not going to do this. But if you know that the destination for your image is only going to be online or only on the web, and you're telling a story that way, then why not lean into that medium? Just like you would shooting a photo for the wall, then now you have the benefit of a physical frame and a physical mat and all those things to accentuate the story and tell it more. Online, you have the ability to add motion and sound and play with it a little bit more. So, it all depends on what you want to do, right?
Right. Right. Great image, by the way. I really dig the compositional elements in here, and what I love is the scale difference. So it gives me a little bit of a sense of a fantasy type scenario, right? Like for me, I imagine this guy lives in the city. He's
Mm.
overworked. He feels small compared to everything else, and he's got to get on the train, go to work or whatever. He's dwarfed by all this around him. And so the use of scale in this, I think, is really, really fun. I like that a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah, it's fun, and it's abstract. It's intentionally abstract, yet not, right? Because you see these buildings on the side here all blurred out, and on purpose to draw your attention down to this guy. This technically, there's several layers going on in this image. Just not to make this a tutorial on motion images, but this started off as a single still image of a guy walking, getting ready to walk under the L train, right? But up here, you see the lights are blinking. Those are one compositional element that were added and overlaid later. These lights weren't actually there when this was shot, obviously. Obviously, the flakes of whatever detritus in water and all that stuff wasn't there. Of course, the buildings weren't moving. Unless you were, smoking something, they'd be moving. but yeah, all that was added later. It didn't take too long, and this whole thing I did on an iPad, so it's fun, and it was fun to
Nice.
do. It wasn't a chore like, it was a blast to put together. So maybe we'll do a tutorial or something like that. Troy, I know you know how to do this as well.
Cool. Cool
All
stuff.
right, thank you all. Thank you. All right, so let's move on to the next shot. And that's going to
Yeah. Like,
be Nora Zanotnes. Nora says, every path taken is a path not taken. So let's bring this down a little bit so we can make it bigger. Boom. There we go. All right. What do you think?
yeah, this is fun. This is a really fun shot. I
Mm-hmm.
love signs, and this is one of those kind of things that I would get out and I would photograph just so that I could, play with these, especially, for us in the US, like these are all different signs. Like we don't have these signs. So I don't even know what a lot of these are telling me. Um, but we know, as having lived on the streets and driving and always, on the road and stuff, we know that they're rules and directions. So, and telling us where to go. So, I dig it. I dig it. I think it fits into the genre quite nicely. My only critique of this particular image would be is I wish that it was shot from a much lower angle.
Mm-hmm.
Like from the ground looking up to make the signs feel much larger. This feels like this was shot at eye level, like you just walked over and it was at eye level. So a little bit
Mm-hmm.
different angle, but I
Yeah.
still like it. I still think it's really fun.
Yeah, yeah, I think the same thing. Like when I look at it, I think I love the smattering of different signs in the shot here. I want to see them more compressed. I know Nora's showing this road in here. I don't think the road is any service to the image, but I want to see. Obviously, we're the whole nature of what we're doing here is armchair quarterbacking photography work, right? We
Of
we
course,
weren't
yeah.
there. We weren't there. We don't know what the restrictions were, or angles, or lighting, or any of that stuff. But from a compositional standpoint, I want to see. It'd have been cool to see these more straight on and more compressed, so they're like kind of going into the distance a little bit, and make them
Hmm.
more, because they're sort of getting out of focus a little bit as they go further back into the distance, just showing you this compression of signs. And he's like, this car over here, like this car over here on this side doesn't need to be there, right? Oh, we get rid of that and crop that out of there. Make it all about the signs. This road, I think, is supporting. It's a supporting character, but I want to see like just compressed signs, like stacking off into the distance there. Maybe even a square crop with the signs kind of going off into the distance. What do you think?
Right. Right. No, I agree. I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways you could photograph this. Nora says, sorry, I was in a moving car.
That's awesome.
Which,
That's awesome.
yeah, which, we understand. I mean, like all of us know, like there's always a challenge in the capture of the image. But, like for me, a lot of times I'll sit down and I'll look at images and I'll be like, man, if I could have just gotten over on that rock, or if I could have just, not been in the car, how would I have shot that? And I think that helps me for the next time that I see that particular type of images, or maybe it's a stand of trees or it's a crowd of people, so. Yeah. But my favorite element in this image is the last arrow sign on the far right. That's kind of like my favorite. So I almost want to play to that a little bit more. And yeah, maybe crop off the first sign of the two cars, and then even do sort of a Photoshop tilt shift kind of look, where you blur out the foreground, which would be the left side of the image, to really bring us into the end of the road, something like that. So you could do a lot with this still.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm surprised you didn't say make it monochromatic.
I wouldn't work. No.
Yeah.
I'm not stupid. I mean,
I love it. I'm not stupid. You know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb, but
don't go there.
I'm just gonna say, smart people never have to say those words.
I knew it when I said it. That it was a flop.
You stepped in it. That was a gift. Thank you. That was a gift. All right. Thank you, Nora. Speaking of gifts, thank you for this shot.
Yeah, thank you, Nora.
Awesome. Very cool. Path not taken. All right, next up is Phil Lewenthal. Phil says, never going there, but it's nice to look at taken from the observation area at Mount Diablo. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I get vertigo just looking at this shot.
I really like this image a lot. Partially because I think right away the compositional elements of this I really love. We've got these sort of this square is like equally dissected, right? It's like equally divided by the mountain in the background, and then so at first you're not really sure what you're looking at, and then once you look a little deeper, you realize like, oh my gosh, like that's a valley and those are trees way back there. So now your brain starts kind of trying to figure out like, where am I? And then I feel that sense of vertigo, right? Like once your brain kind of figures it out, like, and then to see, people up there, I think is very cool. I do wish, Phil, I wish that when you had set this shot up, LOL, like I know you didn't, but I wish we only had the guy in the yellow jacket.
Yeah. Well, that's easy enough to fix, right?
Like it's not well. I mean, you could. It's going to be a little tough to remove them. I think that it would be so great to have just the guy in the yellow jacket. I mean, you could almost crop it. You can't really crop. You got to keep the peak out of there. But I just love the dude in the yellow jacket. He's like the highlight of the image. He's like the hero, and I appreciate the fact that you left him in there and compositionally put him where he's at. Like he's just barely in the frame.
Yeah. Now that you say that, I agree with you. I think two things. If these folks on the top of the peak of the hill were cropped out, I don't think that would be too hard to crop them out. I see what you're saying because there's shadows and all that stuff in there. But the rock is high frequency and it's random, so it'd be relatively easy to hide a cropping job in there, especially if you zoom in and take your time with it. The same with the edge of these people on this ridge line here. I think it's doable to pull them out, but yeah. I think what you said of just having this guy in there, I think if you cropped it kind of like right here, that's a whole new image, right? So that becomes
Mhm.
a mountain climber almost reaching the summit of whatever he's climbing to with a contrasting shirt against, a complementary color contrasting shirt against the background. So it becomes much more of an intentional kind of travel shot versus a tourist shot. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. Any time that I see an image, like a landscape or anything where there's a hook like that, maybe it's a red canoe out on the lake, or a guy in a yellow jacket climbing up the side of a mountain, or it's a runner, in bright orange on an open road just by himself. Like that's
uh-oh.
that I
Did we,
froze. I froze
you
all goofy like
froze.
too.
What happened? You froze. What happened?
I don't know. As
Bandwidth.
long as you could hear me, that's all that mattered.
We couldn't. You froze. Everything froze.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's so bizarre.
Yeah.
Well, I was just saying the guy in the yellow jacket is the hero. So you'll see those things out in the world. We were up at Mammoth, and on Convict Lake, there was a guy that took out a red canoe with his dog, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm following that guy around the lake. It
Yeah.
was great.
Yeah. That's cool. That is really cool.
Yeah,
I like the
always look
shot
for
though.
those hooks.
Yeah, this is different. I mean, Phil has been submitting or sharing a lot of photos that were, kind of those ocean photos up there on the California coast. This is a nice departure from that too. So still naturey, but yeah, still very cool. Very, and I love that yellow. That yellow, you're right. That yellow just pops right out of there. It's really cool.
Yeah,
Right in
and
right
it's
in the
not the
right
first.
spot too.
Right. And it may not be the very first thing you see in the image because it's so small, but in reality, once you've sort of discovered it, right? Once you've sort of found
Yeah.
Waldo, like it becomes one of your favorite nuggets in the image
Mhm.
is that guy. Now you keep thinking like, "Oh, come on, you can make it."
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and without these people in there, or like if if Phil cropped it to just have the yellow shirt guy in there, or left it just like this, without those people, you don't have the sense of scale that we always look for in these shots. Without them, it's kind of like, well, it looks like a mountain. It looks like we're high. I can
Right.
kind of guess how big it is, but with a human in there, your brain instantly locks in on, oh, okay, it's high. Oh, it's a summit.
Yeah, and then I'll also add that this was shot with a long lens. I don't know how long, but I'm talking probably a couple 100 millimeter anyway, and that's what creates that compression. And if you didn't shoot this with the long lens, the background wouldn't compress the same. It wouldn't pull up in behind those subjects. So I think that it's the lens choice, and there's a lot
Mm.
of right things happening in this image that aren't obvious right off the bat.
Yeah. Yep. Cool shot. All right. Thank you, Phil. All right. Next up is Mesquite Dunes, Death Valley National Park from Thomas. All right. Let's take a look. This one's cool. Like this one definitely wanted to be in black and white because obviously we know what the color of the sky is. We know what the color of sand is. So we don't need to be told what color those things are. So then by dropping those colors out, it becomes all about the form and the graceful lines in the shot with this one little thing. Well, these things over here too, but I would have taken those out. But this one little thing right here, this person on the line that is breaking up the lines and kind of taking it out of nature. I don't know. What do you think?
I love the image. I love the composition of this image. The fact that you have our subject, the hero, which is way up in the upper right hand third. I love that there. I think that's fantastic. The tonality is great. I love the dunes. The dunes to me, having done a lot of desert riding and a lot of camping in the dunes, and then just photographing them because I love all of the sine wave curves and the smooth curves and stuff and the forms and shapes. I just love the dunes. So just seeing it is just really pleasing. Um, as far as this image goes, everything that's on the dunes to me looks amazing. I think the clouds were dropped in because there are some artifacts around the subject and along the dunes on the right hand side, pretty much along the edge of those dunes. it's all jagged and raggedy, and something's going on there. So if the sky was dropped in, or if you manipulated the sky pretty heavily, right where the sky and the dunes meet, there are some weird artifacts going on in there. And that sort of leads to my next suggestion. Was I was going to say is bring the clouds up, make them brighter, because right now their tonality is competing with the dunes. And I think that if you can make them softer, make them feel more distant, it'll give you more depth in the image. And I don't think you need the dramatic clouds to compete with the dunes. So
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, they are competing a little bit. What would you say is the subject of this shot, Troy?
well, I think it's the person up on the dune.
Hmm.
I think that's the subject. I think the canvas is the dunes,
Yeah,
but our subject is that person up there.
right, right.
So that's the hero. Yeah.
Yeah,
Even that small in the frame.
yeah, yeah. I like it. I like it. A lot. Yeah, like I said, I agree with you. I agree with you on the. I didn't notice your. That's why we. That's why you're so good at these critiques, man. I didn't notice. I didn't notice the ridge line there. So I'm curious if this was a sky replacement. Now I can't not think about that. Thank you, Troy. But I also agree that the high frequency of the clouds, or the pattern of the clouds, is competing with the pattern of the dunes. So if the clouds were a little bit more understated or wispy, that would draw our attention more towards the dune and then up into this person on the crest here. So
Right. I think that, you can create a lot of depth in an image by focal length, by, depth of field, and also by using light.
hmm.
And, right now the lower quadrant of this image is nice and dark. It's even slightly softer. It gets a little sharper and brighter as you go through. The dunes get a little bit smoother. So let's not compete with that, right? Let's take
Hmm.
some of the drama out of the sky and let the dunes be sort of the supporting hero to the subject up there on the ridge.
Like it. Well said.
Nicely done.
All right. This is Thomas. Thank you, Thomas. All right. Next up is Eric Pronsky. Road to Monument Valley. Look at
That's so
that.
cool. I've never been there. This is one place I've never been.
Yeah, that's stunning. That road. I've seen shots like this before. Usually they have. Usually they're. It's not this shot alone. Usually it's this shot with a car in there, kind of parked in the middle of the street, or a motorcycle, or a
Yeah.
moon coming up in the middle of this. Something. But this is very simple and to the point, and the subject becomes the road itself instead of what's on the road, which is kind of cool.
Right, right. And I really love the symmetry that's going on in here. And compositionally, I think it's really fun. It's one of those kind of images that as a photographer, we've all seen, going to or from someplace. And it's one of those kind of scenes that we all just want to hurry up and just blast down there maybe and get to there before the sunrise or the sunset,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so the photographer in us all kind of see this. Um, from the image point of view, I think that it's overall it's kind of flat, and through lighting and things like that, like we don't have a clear hero. So I'm kind of wondering how I would do this, but I would probably work with bringing the road out more by maybe leaving the road lighter and then burning down the surrounding land, the ground, and then getting to the mountains in the back, adding some more contrast to them, or maybe even pushing them down even deeper, so it felt like evening was approaching, right, and give me some sense to pull me through the image.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, it does have a. It feels like there is a layer of haze over it that could pop it out, and may even be maybe a stop underexposed, or maybe a third, not a full stop, maybe a third or even an eighth of a stop. It's a little bit underexposed. What about the sky? Like we talked in that last shot about with the dunes, that the sky was competing with the dunes itself. What about in this shot? There is no sky. Do you think this one would have benefited from dropping a sky in there?
I don't think that you need a sky in this one. I think that having something really simple really works because the profile of the mountains come out really well, which is really what we want. We want to make sure that the mountains kind of stand out. Now, if you wanted to, you could drop something in there very simply and just make it at the tiniest little wisp in the sky across the
Hmm.
top or something. But I don't think that it would be huge.
Yeah.
Um, when I work on images, if this was my image, these are things that I would do, that I would play with, and I would actually go in and I would drop in clouds, or I would try higher contrast, lower contrast, or a combination of both to kind of find the recipe that I like the best. So sometimes you have to see it, but I like it like this.
Yeah. James Glenny is in the chat. James says, "I want a shot of a plane landing in this spot." Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It looks like it's begging for a lot of things, like a plane landing in the shot. Our stereotypical Skyloom hot air balloon back there floating. you know, you can have
Right,
anything in
right,
there, or just like this. Then the road and the mountains. The composition itself becomes the shot. So
right. Right.
yeah.
Now there's a lot of things like a guy in a yellow jacket running down the side of the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've seen a shot like this, a composite. I like composite stuff, right? So I've seen a shot like this where the artist basically composited in a swimmer, right? Swimming down the road. So it looked like they were literally swimming in asphalt, and the asphalt was liquid somehow,
Yeah.
right? It looked really, really
Yeah.
cool. This reminds me of that shot. So that would work here too. All right.
Yep. Super
Thank you.
cool. Super cool.
Eric Pronsky never disappoints. All right, Ernest is up next. He says, "This is the path not taken." What is this haiku? What do you got in here? The path not taken can't be a path. The eyes are what? The eyes are back to somewhat normal again. Troy needs to try a very dark. Okay, this is a message to you. All right, take a look.
I'm down. I'm down.
Yeah,
Um, I like this image though. This is really great. See, this is one of those sort of simple hero shots, right? Like I know what the subject is. I'm drawn into that subject, which is the trees. We've got this nice curve in the background, which is maybe like the fog or a cloud landing in the valley, creating some symmetry and giving us a sense of depth. So this is quite simple yet very sophisticated. I really do enjoy this. And the two trees kind of laying off to the left are probably my favorite element in the shot.
yeah, right there. Yeah, I dig those too because
Yeah.
it's that whole pattern interrupted idea we always talk about, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because it gives us a sense of, we see everything else and we're like, oh, trees, yes. Oh, what's going on with these guys? Like, how are you doing? Are you okay? you know?
My daughter would say, "It's the circle of life. That's what's happening."
Uh,
Yeah, these are really cool. I love the fog layer up here that's rolling in. I think that's for me that makes the shot because it obscures everything in the background and adds a bunch of mystery as to, do these trees go on forever back there, or is there a mountain range back there, or what's back there,
right.
right? So the fog obscures that, and in the foreground we have these nice crisp trees, and like you said, these two that are felled right here in the front. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, and another thing that I really like as I zoom in and poke around in this is it's got a fairly shallow depth of field for a landscape. So mostly just the front row of the trees are in focus, and then as you go back a little bit, they get softer and softer, and that's not very traditional in landscape photography. In landscape, a lot of the goal is that kind of like shoot for a lot of depth, get a lot of depth of field. But I think that using shallow depth of field in a situation like this is really nice because it gives us a sense that the valley in the distance is farther away. Um, our eyes, we don't see in 100% depth of field all the time. We actually see in a shallower depth of field, and our brain puts the image together. So this feels more natural.
Yeah, yeah. Our brain, our brain has no kind of what's the best way to put it? The way that I think about it, and I know I'm going to be corrected by some in the audience, but the way that I think about it is, yeah, our brain is interpolating a lot, and a lot of the things that our brain thinks we see, we don't actually see. It's just basically building a lot of things, and the fact that we can change our point of focus instantaneously gives the illusion of more depth of field than is actually
Right.
there. Because I can look at a horizon and it's in focus, and then look at my desk and it's in focus, and it feels like that's a lot of depth of field, when in reality my brain is just
Right.
instantly, making the decision on what I want to be looking at any given time. So.
As long as we have on the right glasses. If we don't have on the right glasses,
I know. Dude, I have glasses in
but you're
every
right.
room now. I have glasses in every single room in my house and in my car. It's
Another interesting fact is, we talk about our eyes, and I think this is important in photography, is that we don't really see true color all the time. So our eyes adjust to sort of a white. So if you take a piece of paper like printer paper and you take it, outside in the shade and you look at it, your brain goes, oh, that's white. And then if on another day you took it outside in the sunlight and you looked at it, and your brain's going to go, oh yeah, that's white. If you took it into, Staples and under fluorescent light, you can go, oh yeah, that's the same white. It's not. They're all very different colors, but our brain looks at that and goes, oh yeah, that's white. So I'm going to tell you it's white. You see it as the same, you perceive it as the same, but in reality, those are all very, very different color temperatures. So photographically, we have to be aware of the light that we're in, and our eyes are lying to us. They're telling us that, oh, look at this light, it's beautiful. And then you take a photo and it's blue because it's shade light, So,
and that's why the whole, on Apple computers or Apple devices in general, iOS and Mac OS, they have this feature called True Tone display, where it will
right.
over time shift the white point to match what it thinks is the most pleasing based on the ambient light in the room and all that. And I always felt like, for consumers, yeah, that's great, but to ease the strain on the eyeball. But for photographers that are trying to get color accuracy, turn it off, right? I have it turned off on all my devices. It's off, so they're always putting out this, the same color. It's not shifting over time. Can you imagine though? Imagine if you're trying to match something and get colors just right, and then when the sun goes down, suddenly your display gets warmer, and you're correcting for warmer, right?
It's a real challenge in my household. Because Margie does a lot of the editing, and I have to make sure that, when she's sending images to clients, even though she's doing it like on her phone, she'll be like, hey, why are these so warm? I'm like, they're not, because she's looking at them on her phone, right? And she's comparing them to a proof that she's looking at sitting out on the back patio in the shade.
Yeah.
And we forget sometimes that there are so many different tonal ranges of light that we have to just consciously kind of step back and be like, okay, what light source am I in? And then you compensate for it based on how you want the image to work. So
that color science it always feels like it's the last pea on the plate with a spoon that you're just chasing around, because all this stuff we're talking about, lighting conditions and your brain kind of making decisions, or even the software that you're working on making decisions about what colors to show you. And then, after it's done, say you nail it, right? After it's done, you release that image off into the wild, then all bets are off, right? Because you don't know where that image is going to be displayed. If it's a print, you don't know if it's going to be in a room that's lit by tungsten lighting, which is going to throw everything off, or fluorescent lighting, or daylight, or what, or even if it's digital, it's going to be on someone's screen. You don't know what screen they're looking at it on, and do they have True Tone turned on, so it's going to shift it warm, or so you can only produce a quality of work that's to your own standard, and then release it out into the world, and then understand that people are going to perceive it differently, right? I mean, as a wedding photographer, I'm sure you deal with that. You've been dealing with that for decades, right? When you make, like you said with Margie, or if you make a book and you send it out to a client, you don't know where that client is going to be consuming that content or looking at those photos, right?
Right. And, not to drag the subject on anymore too much, but, the idea is that the color science is probably one of the least understood processes in photography. And I think that as important as light, I really think that our photographic process, the gear doesn't matter nearly as much as one, understanding light, understanding color, and then understanding, like your subject and composition and things like that. And then you capture those photons the way that you want. And there's a lot of production. There's a lot of photographers that don't understand how color works. And to your example, Frederick, it's super important. Like when I build a book, that all the images in the book are the same tone. Even though I know that they're going to look at them maybe under different light, it's that consistency, right? So I can't have the dress look a little bit blue or a cool in one shot and a little bit too warm in another, because when they look at it in their light or on their devices, those variances comes through. You need consistency through all your work. So all the work I create is zeroed out. So yeah, it's a big discussion. But I think it's kind of cool. It's kind of geeky.
Yeah, we should bring that. We should bring that up at the next member mixer and have a group conversation about that. It would be.
Oh yeah, I've got a couple friends who are color geeks. I mean, like there's rocket science and then there's color science, and these guys are right on par with color science. And it's way over my head sometimes, but it helps me create a consistent product, and it helps. I think it helps all of us, because you can use it in the creative element too, not just the technical element. So yeah. We should talk about it.
We should, yeah. With that analogy or that comparison, I would think, not to offend any rocket scientists out there, but rocket science is a science, and I don't think it has a whole lot of creativity in it, right? It's science. It's like when you mix this with that, it does this, and you get thrust, and you can do this and put things in orbit, and it works the same, all things being equal all the time. That's called science, right? But with this stuff, like we mentioned before, there's so many variables. It's just variables all over the place, including the number of rods and cones we each have in our eyes. They're all different. So my red is different than your red, right? So you don't have those kind of variables in rocket science. So, I don't know. Beating a dead horse. That horse is beat to death. Sorry, horse. Don't get us talking about color. Color's interesting.
The hook has come out on stage and pulled us off.
It's pulled us off. Yeah, the Sandman has played us off the stage. All right. Path not taken. This shot was, who was this from? Ernest. Thank you, Ernest.
Yeah, thanks, Ernest.
All right. Up next is Raphael Swift. He says, the road that would have got me to work on time last Sunday. 2 base ISO images stacked in Photoshop, which is half broken yet again. One stack at f8, the other at f22, zooming out from 50 to 24. Oh, okay. So, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Oh, I like this.
Hint. Yeah. Got a little hint of a little border / key line relief there around the edge. Just
I love it. I love it. Yep. It's kind of like putting a bow on something, not wrapping it, but just putting a little bow around it. Here you go. Here you go. Dude. Yeah.
It's finished.
Raphael, I really appreciate your creativity with this. I think this is really great. This is one of those images where I want to see more pop. I want to see the whites more white, and then the shadows go a little bit deeper and play into the heavy contrast that you have to work with there. Plus, I feel like the sign is dead center on the horizon, if you will. What I would like to see is probably remove most of the foreground, so I feel like I'm right up against the sign telling me I can't go any further. Right now I've got all this distance that I could go. Like I got enough running, I could run through those signs. So I would probably remove some of that foreground.
Yeah, some of the chin down there. Yeah, I agree. And I think that's the only comment I had on this particular image, is that some of this bottom area down here, because this clearly right in the middle, because of the zooming, this is our hero right here. We don't really need that much. But on the other hand, I understand what he was thinking. I think I understand what he was thinking when he put this together. We want this in the center of the screen and kind of zooming into it. But I think you achieve that, like you said, by cropping off some of the chin of the image, because there's not a whole lot going on down here anyway. Even that zoom effect isn't that evident down here in the bottom. So.
Right. And, to create this image properly, you need to put that sign in the middle, in the center. And I get that. Mm-hmm. Like, that's great. You need it in that center zoom area, but you can crop it later. And I think that we just don't need as much of that foreground. And then to balance it out, if you wanted to, you could obviously take some of the right and left off the sides, and you still have a very powerful image. I think it's great. I think it's a really fun image and a good representation of the topic.
Yeah. I was gonna say that. Yeah, what a strong representation of the path not taken, right? So
Right.
this is,
Right.
yeah, definitely spot on for the subject topic or the critique topic. All right, Raphael, thank you, sir. All right, who's up next? Karen Sweeney, who's in the chat. Hey, Karen. Karen says, for the path not taken, a forgotten part of the park taken this morning. Okay.
Oh,
3 hours ago. This is today. Look at that.
well, that's when it was posted, Frederick, not when it was photographed.
I'm gonna say, Karen, let us know. Was this photographed today? Is this Scotland today, or is this Scotland some other time posted today for Mr. Weisenheimer over here? I would have said something else, instead of Weisenheimer, but I don't want to get the explicit tag on this video.
Yeah. Oh, good grief. Good
Yeah.
grief. You know, I like what we have in the scene here. I feel like we have too many elements going on. I love the feeling of this, by the way, though. I mean, for somebody like me, I love to be outside. I like to, walk and explore paths, and I love the greenery and just the sense of the trees, and I love that. So for somebody who likes to be outside, this image just is really cozy.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I think photographically, I think we have too many things happening. We have the tree on the far edge. We've got, looks like some wooden fence posts running kind of down the right half-ish. And then we got what looks to me like a really beautiful, rusty, old, dilapidated metal fencey thing on the left, which is really what I want to photograph, right? So this is one of those kind of images that there's just so much going on in there, that it's tough the way it is. I would love to see more shots of that metal fence on the left, something close, low, wide angle, really make it the hero of the shot.
Yeah, I agree. When I saw the shot, you know what I thought of instantly? Was have you ever read Stephen King's book Pet Cemetery? You may have seen the movie.
No, I don't do horror. I don't.
Oh,
so
yeah, that's
read
horror.
it. I haven't seen it, and now I'm gonna have nightmares all day because you said Pet Cemetery.
Yes,
can't imagine that's good.
It's not, especially the scene I'm thinking of, because there's a scene in Pet Cemetery where it's not gonna be scary. Don't worry, it's not scary. But no, there's this.
Is he done?
Look at Troy taking his headphones out. Taking his headphones out.
I don't want to hear it.
It's not scary. So, okay, I'll keep it completely G, right? So there's a scene in the movie where the lead characters have to overcome an obstacle that looks very much like this. They call it a thicket, nice. Right? They have to climb over to reach something else that's pivotal to the plot of the story. This reminds me of that. If you've seen Pet Cemetery, sound off in the chat, or or in the comments and on the video, and let me know if you've seen it. And does the background area back here, like this area back here, very much reminds me of where they took, let's say, the character Gage. If you remember Gage, that's where Gage was taken for some stuff to happen. And I'll leave it right there because we don't want to frighten my co-host over here with Pet Cemetery stuff. But I agree with you on the complexity of the image. There's a lot going on here. There's this tree on the left here, which is kind of truncated, no pun intended. But this rusty little fence here feels like that would be a better subject, especially if Karen had cropped in on this a little bit and done kind of a leading line into this area over here that looks like it's blocked, which means, path not taken. You can't go in that direction. All this other stuff in here, I feel like is supporting to the main what that would have been if we kind of shot down that line here. But yeah, there's a ton going on. But I agree. This has that feeling of, if you're a nature person, you're gonna go out there. You can probably smell it, right? You can smell the fresh air.
Did you read James? James says the green in this makes me want to lie down in it and have a nap. And then you gave your Pet Cemetery explanation, and then he says, "Yep, it does now. I no longer want to lie down here."
Exactly. James saw it, right? James, you saw the movie. So, well, James, as long as you lay on this side of the thicket, you're okay. You all right? So, and you're alive, you should be fine.
How funny.
So,
just to speak to Karen a little bit, I would go back to this area and shoot quite a bit. I mean, this is what I would consider to be like a favorite spot, and go back and work that fence and photograph through it. Photograph wide and shallow, photograph long and compressed through the bushes. Like, there's places like this on my road trips that I try to go back to, because they're challenging, right? It's a challenge. So
yeah.
So I dig it.
Cool. Karen says, it used to look better. There was an old gate, but someone removed it. Yeah. So, got to work it. Work that scene. Cool.
Perfect.
I like it.
Good
Very
job.
Fun shots. Yeah. See, what a turnout for Path Not Taken. All these good
I gotta
shots.
tell you, the community really rose to the challenge with this one, because I thought, oh, this is going to be one of those subjects we're going to get like 3 images and they're not going to be anything to talk about. We're going to have to like just do stand-up comedy for a half hour.
Yeah.
But you guys did great, far better than I expected. So yay! The parents are proud.
Yep. And speaking of great, here's one that is blatantly pandering to you. Right?
So, oh, shut up. What cameras do you have?
I have a Nikon. I love my Nikon.
Yeah, so.
But I don't sleep with mine on the pillow anymore.
Right
Look at this.
Here.
Look.
It's right
always,
there. There
always right next to the man is this Nikon. Look at him.
I know.
Look at him. Look at him.
Good, too.
Deer acquisition syndrome right there at its best.
No, it's not.
I know it's not. James Glennie says, I occasionally wonder how things might be different had I chosen another path. Oh, interesting.
So true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's that Nikon. What is that? That's that 50. Is that 51.4 on there? It looks like.
It looks like a 51.4, or it looks like a 50 millimeter. James is in the chat. He can tell us what lens that is, but that looks like a 50. I have one up. I have one in my cupboard that I'll never get rid of.
Yeah.
Oh, Craig came up with the theme. Oh, good. I wondered who came up with it. Sorry.
Good. Which Craig? We've got 2 in there.
Oh yeah, we have 2 Craig, so we need some Craig definition.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, James, I love your subject, and I love the different take that you took in talking about this, because I think for all of us at some point, we chose a camera system to stick with, and I did the same thing. I mean, I had Canon and Nikon in my hand at a store many years ago when I bought my first. God, what was it? An N80 or something like that. God, I can't even think of what it was anymore. And the Canon guy wasn't nice to me. The Nikon guy was really nice to me, and that's why I bought Nikon. I'm not kidding. I mean, that was the whole reason that I bought Nikon, was because I had like $3,000 in my pocket. I went down to this sort of show and tell to buy the camera. It was Claremont Camera in Claremont, California. And there was a Minolta, Canon, and Nikon. Nikon was kind of shoved over at the end, and I stood there in between them, and I asked them both questions, right? Like, I was going to try to get answers. And the Canon guy just snubbed me the whole time. And the Nikon guy was super cool. He told me stuff about the Canon cameras. He told me stuff about the Nikon cameras. And that was it. I'm like, okay.
This is a brand I want to be involved with. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in missed revenue, right? For Canon.
So many thousands. But I love the shot. I love the shallow depth of field. I really like the fact that you sort of pick the side that told us what camera this was. I like the fact that we know that it's a digital, like a D300, which is an early digital camera. You do need to dust that thing off, though. I can see some dust spots all over your camera, so I think you need to clean that up just a little bit. But other than that, Um, yeah, it's a wonderful shot. I really like it. It's well done.
Yeah, it's fun. This is a fun shot. Yeah, definitely a nice illustration of the path not taken. Right. So like you said, this brings
Right,
back
right.
it brings back the idea of like you. It brought you back to that camera shot of when you that was your fork in the road for camera bodies, and you chose not to take Canon or Minolta, and you ended up Nikon and been happily ever after. Right.
Yep, and you know, when I read his description, I immediately thought of that experience that I had. Immediately,
Yeah.
I thought of that whole thing. And you mentioned Minolta. I actually went to a local camera store, and he tried to talk me into Minolta, and I wasn't interested. Then I went to the Nikon Canon guys
There
and
you go.
watched them fight over it. But yeah, yeah,
Yeah. James says, yeah, this was the 50 millimeter 1.4. Yep. Yeah, I picked it. I have that lens. I
James
had that
says,
lens. I remember having that lens way back in the day. That was a go-to lens. Manual. That was not manual though. The one I had was manual. It was manual everything. This one looks like it's autofocus. Yeah, it is autofocus. AF
yeah,
Nikkor.
yeah, that's the autofocus one. Yeah, I still have
Yeah.
one of those. And if you get, that's a really, really good macro lens. If you get a reverse adapter ring, it flips the lens around, and you can get those rings for, I don't know, they're like $12 or $8 or whatever on Amazon. And you flip the lens around, it becomes a great macro. It's almost like a 1-to-1 macro.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. Very cool.
All right.
What does James say? This is my friend's daily driver. He never cleans it. Good.
Yeah, well, there you go. You know, it's a tool, right? Who sits around polishing their
Yeah.
hammers, right? And your screwdrivers and all that. Yeah, except Troy Miller. Yeah, Troy Miller.
I actually do clean my tools. Just, you know, a good mechanic does clean his tools.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, of course. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Glenny, and thanks for coming to the live broadcast of this here critique session.
Yeah. Yeah. You all are going to receive a check for $100,000 for being part. No, I'm just kidding.
100,000 rubles. We will be sending that out to you immediately. So, wonder what that would get you.
As an
100,000 rubles.
NFT, though, only as an NFT.
Yeah. Oh man. Can you imagine? This NFT is worth 100,000 rubles. Like, what does that even mean these days? What does that even mean?
Oh, that's so bad.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it for the submissions. Do you have a favorite in the mix? I'm gonna let you pick.
I I
Can't
really
pick.
like Thomas's.
You want to pick James's, right? You want to pick the Nikon. I know.
No, I'm not gonna pick James's. I love the Dunes.
Yeah.
I think there's
Yeah.
a lot of winners in this series, to be honest. I mean, it's a great interpretation of the subject, all except for yours.
Yeah. I know.
Yours is kind of garbage.
It's
But
horrible. Horrible.
I like the Dunes a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yep.
Yeah, the
Dunes.
minimalism is very timeless. You know, it feels like something that could have been taken, you know, by Ansel Adams, you know, 50, 80 years ago. It could have been something taken, you know, yesterday. So
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
all really good.
That's cool. Yeah. I like this one too. Yeah. They're all really good. It's like, and then the nitpicks that we threw out there about the sky and all that, those are nitpicks, right? So,
Right.
yeah, I think this is a fine shot. Very cool. All right. So, what do we have coming up next time around? We said it at the beginning, and it is. Let me bring it up here.
Yeah. What is it?
It is. Wait for it. I feel
We didn't.
the need for speed. Maybe this one's in honor of Top Gun being released, right? So this is the new
Yeah.
Top Gun. So
Yeah. All these topics, these last 5 topics, we did not pick them, by the way.
nope.
So the community put together a list and we obliged. So if you feel like there's a there he goes.
There you go, right there.
Every time.
You gotta put your.
Every time. Oh, I
I gotta
like
put
that.
your.
Yeah, a little. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go. A little
yeah,
offset.
yeah. Well, right there. There you go.
All right. Yeah. And
So now,
then
now you can talk to the Need for Speed. Tell us what the critique Need for Speed is going to be about, Troy Miller. Give us some
the
ideas.
need.
Give us some ideas.
Oh, wow. Well, speed can be referenced in many ways. We're going to stay away from the illegal forms of speed. Um, but horsepower, racing, computer performance, maybe, focusing speed, like right here, focusing speed that I've got in my camera.
Is that your Canon right there? Nice.
I got some videos of some Canons and Nikons, by the way, that I passed a hunk of lead through, and they're fun to watch.
Nice.
A bit of horsepower. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Speed could be anything, right? It could be, it could be literal, like a long or a drag shutter exposure of a car or something moving, right? Or it could be, I mean, we don't want it, we don't need drug type stuff, but that is an interpretation of speed, right? Some speed type chemical substances. Even, I mean, everything, right? I mean, if you think about the universe in general, the universe is always moving. Like everything is moving really, really fast right now. So even an astrophotography shot could be about speed, the speed of light, the speed of light of all the galaxies and celestial bodies that have traveled at the speed of light to get here. That is the need for speed, because without that speed, we wouldn't even see any of them. So
right,
yeah,
right. But because technically we all live in a simulation, light is an illusion. So I don't know that actually works, Frederick. I don't know.
Well, I mean, from that perspective, the machine that the simulation is running on has to have a certain amount of horsepower in order to keep all this running and keep all of us little bots feeling like that we're actually alive. So yeah, speed everywhere. Yeah.
So I think it's be a great topic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was suggested by Stephen Sharf, wasn't it?
I'm not, I'm guessing maybe, because Stephen Sharf is a motorsports shooter. So maybe, I'm not sure. Next time around, we'll note who submitted these, and I'll include that. I'll include that in this title graphic down here. I'll put the name of the person who submitted the suggestion for this topic.
Nice.
So
nice.
You can chastise that person accordingly for suggesting that. Yep. Cool. All right, we're about 6 minutes past the hour. We've gone about an hour for this, so I think we're good. Any parting thoughts you want to leave to the folks in the community for the rest of the week?
Just enjoy, like for us, like just get outside and enjoy the nice weather. Go take some photos of things that you wouldn't normally take photos of.
Yeah, good idea. And some things that are speed related for the next critique. How about that?
Oh, I have a good image already. Dang.
What is it? Okay. What is it? Tell us.
I can't know.
No. Karen in the chat says it was Steven when we were talking about who submitted the topic for this one. So, all right, Stephen Sharf, it's time to throw down, man. You got to show us what you can do. You suggested this critique, Stephen. So let's see what you can do. You and Mike Doran and Craig Stampley are motorsports people. So let's see what you can do. All right, cool. Well, we'll leave it right there. Thank you, everybody, for participating in this here critique, number 186. I look forward to seeing what you guys put in for 187. And if you are a TWIP member, you can, we'll be discussing a lot of stuff in the Friday member mixer. I really want to bring up the discussion about color and have some, dive into that, some color theory type stuff. So be prepared to talk about that this Friday. If you're not a TWIP member, become one at join.thisweekinphoto.com. And we'll leave it right there. Thanks a lot, Troy. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Yep. See you later.